Okay, folks, here it is. The first review as promised.
Oh, crap!
Forgot this is a James Bond review, which means I might have to change for this occasion. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, look at this. This is nice, isn't it? I know, it doesn't represent Bond at all, does it? Nope, don't have anything like that. So, this is the review of Skyfall. Now, this is the 23rd Eon-produced James Bond film. I just got done seeing it today.
The only thing I have to say is...
Wow! Oh my god! Blew me sky high! How about that, huh? It was amazing. I can tell you that right now, that anybody who wants to see this movie, you are in for a treat. Whether you've seen the last James Bond movie or not, or any of the James Bond movies, this is a special treat. This is an amazing film. Spectacular, award-worthy, brilliantly acted, everything you can imagine. Now, like I said, this is just my first reaction to this, so if the review sounds really disconjointed, that's why. I guess I'll start at the beginning. Anyways, what I have to say is, if you're familiar with the Bond films, which I'm sure if you're watching this you are, it always opens with this big, spectacular action scene. This big scene of explosions and gunfire and car chases and boat chases and what have you. The opening to this one actually kind of gave me mixed feelings right away. The action itself was pretty decent. There was this nice, you've seen it in all the commercials, this nice kind of motorcycle flip onto a train. Great stunt stuff there. But the thing was, Sam Mendes, brilliant director, Oscar-winning director from American Beauty from '99, right away I could tell that this was his first rodeo, which is something that's always a bad sign, especially for an action movie. Sam Mendes, this is his first rodeo for doing an action film, so it is kind of a big deal if something's noticeable. And right away I could tell it was CGI latent. I mean, I could tell everything that was CGI. I mean, it was downright obvious. I mean, it was just spectacularly dumb. Just the way that they utilize CGI in the most obvious ways. That's unfortunate, but then the theme song came up. As you always know, James Bond films open with a spectacular title sequence for the opening credits, and the song by Adele, which I don't really like very many modern artists at all. Justin Bieber, I'm gonna kill you one day, I can promise you that, watch your back. Right away, the song was just mesmerizing. It's exactly the kind of big, kind of brassy sound at times that you get from, best example, Goldfinger, from Shirley Bassey, all the way back to the 60s. Nice way of kind of throwing back to that old style of Bond from latter years that have been almost forgotten by today's audiences. But there was one thing in the movie, I don't think I want to spoil it, that was a direct throwback to one of the classic Bonds that involved a vehicle, which, if you know anything about Bond, you already know what that vehicle is. You've seen the commercials, you know what's in Skyfall. When they revealed it, the audience that I was with when we saw the film tonight kind of oohed and awed, and they were just like there were actually a couple claps and cheers, and so audiences know the basic stuff about Bond, that's for sure. But anyways, the plot of the film, I don't want to, since this is right away released, I don't want to give away too much. If I spoil anything, I'll warn you ahead of time, which I don't like that. Especially if the video doesn't include some sort of spoiler alert or some sort of warning, do not watch further if you want to see the movie and be amazed. But the plot involves a connection to the past with James Bond's boss, M, and after a failed mission, Bond comes back supposedly from the dead, resurrects himself, and gets back into action, as he says, reports back for duty for MI6 to figure out who's trying to kill all these agents who could possibly be going after after MI6, or even all of England, or potentially all the world. The way they bring in Bond, I thought was superbly well handled. This is especially from a screenplay aspect of it, which is if there's a moment in a film, especially sequels where your hero comes back or is returning from something, and he's out of action, he's out of it, we don't want to see him there for too long. And Skyfall had about like 4 minutes of screen time maybe where Bond wasn't Bond. He was kind of just this kind of alcoholic guy. Superbly well done as far as the pace of that went. I'm so glad that they were able to realize that. If you'll excuse me. The way that they know, the audience knows that if Bond is not in the film the way he should be, they will notice it and they will not be happy with it. But I personally couldn't have been happier. And let's see, and as the plot unfolds, it kind of globetrots a little bit around the Singapore, China area, and then back to London, and actually the ending takes place in Scotland. I don't think that's giving away anything. But one thing I was surprised by particularly was there's particularly on the web, there's this kind of thing of, this is the story of M and her past coming back to haunt her. Actually, that's dealt with very, very early, including the revelation of who the villain actually is and all that. That's probably within the first hour, and it's about the second hour. I don't think this spoils anything, but we actually find out a lot more, and we get more to the backstory for the first time in 50 years of what was James Bond like before he became a British agent. Where did he grow up? What were his parents like? Is there anybody in his family alive? All that, a few of those questions are answered and all that, but I won't reveal the answers. If you want to see the movie, go right ahead and find out the answers for yourself. But, and then the last, pretty much the last act of the movie is all about this guy, the villain, Silva, played by Javier Bardem, kind of comes his final blow to final phase of his plan to get back at the people he wants to get back at. And I don't think I'm giving away too much with that. But let's talk about the cast for a second. Daniel Craig has got to be the second best. He's the runner-up for our favorite Bond of all time. As far as I'm concerned, the class of Sean Connery will never be matched. The way he defined the role is the fitting example for everyone else to follow. No matter how many Bonds we get, no matter how long the series may go, another 50 years, maybe another 150 years for all we know, before it gets too stale, nobody ever on this planet will match Sean Connery in the way his charisma fills a scene and automatically it just gets smiles from all the people in the audience. Daniel Craig, I think, does this second best in the way that he plays it very, very dry. Kind of the way that's represented in the Ian Fleming novels. Very, very well done, by the way. And whenever he does crack a smile, the audience cracks a smile with him. Whenever he gets a big laugh and he kind of keeps his stone face, the audience laughs even harder. And his performance in the last couple films, in Casino Royale, was superb. In Quantum of Solace, you could tell that Craig wasn't as involved because it was just right after Casino Royale. He had no time to kind of be away from the character and to kind of explore, okay, what's the difference between Casino Royale James Bond and Quantum of Solace James Bond? There was, not much. But here, the Skyfall James Bond, it's set up in the story to be a different James Bond from the past couple of films. So how he handled that was superb. Very, very excellent performance. It's the kind of performance that a long time ago, the 50s, that the Oscars would honor with a nomination for Best Actor. And it's very hard today for action movies to get their star anything worth recognition for any kind of award. Like, the best example I can think of is Ben-Hur when Charlton Heston won his Oscar for Best Actor. That kind of heroic performance, it's the performance that I don't think is slipping away. It's just being tossed aside. People just don't care about it anymore because they don't win Oscars anymore. And I think it's unfortunate that that's kind of slipping away. kind of fading away into the sand of time, and Craig's performance, especially in this film and Casino Royale, kind of reminds us why we hate to see that happen. Okay, next I want to get to the highlight of this whole film, Javier Bardem. I mean, let's face it, you put a guy whose performance wins a movie Best Picture at the Oscars as the villain in a James Bond film, you're set. You're going to make buku bucks, you're going to get critical praise, everybody in the theater is going to get chills down their spines when this guy walks on screen. And Javier Bardem surpassed all expectations. Right away when I saw the first trailers of him, and they kind of first revealed him, and he has that blonde hair, I thought, how are they going to use that? How are they going to use that? Is it going to make him more terrifying, or is it just going to make the audience just howl at him? And it's terrifying, I can tell you that much. Right away, I got this sense of his first scene, so brilliantly written. It's the first Bond villain in a long, long time to have this menacing quality about them that the audience feels, that hovers over the film in their first 5 to 10 seconds of screen time. Actually, when I think back to it, the only time that's ever been done, excuse me, the only time that's ever been done previously is in Dr. No. And that is, in Dr. No, there's the scene where Professor Dent goes to his boss's headquarters, and he just stands in a room, and then you hear this voice, "Sit down," and it comes out of nowhere. We don't see who's talking, and it's this kind of dark, quiet room. It sets perfectly this menacing power that we don't see, and in Skyfall, it's not exactly duplicated, but it's perfectly brought up to standards. Because Javier Bardem's first scene where we see him is a scene where Bond's been captured. I don't think this is giving away way too much, because if you see the trailer, you already know he gets, the villain kind of gets a hand on Bond, and I hate to say that because that gives away another big laugh in the film, but anyways, he kind of gets a hold of Bond and at least has him as his prisoner for a little while. And he comes in and he's far away. The camera is, let's say the camera is right here. He's all the way out here, off screen. Like, he's almost like so far away. It's in this really big room where you cannot barely see anything on this guy. You can't, we can't tell, is he tall? Is he short? We can't hardly tell a thing about him, and he tells this chilling, menacing little story about cannibalism. Well, not human cannibalism. It's actually, I'll say some form of cannibalism. And it just spooks everybody in the audience. Like, the audience I saw, nobody, at this point, of course, we can't see, from far away he has blonde hair. And when they kind of revealed that, he's kind of this blonde guy, nobody in the theater was laughing, calling him dumb blonde or something. They were silent, absolutely silent. And it was so menacing. What a great performance. And of course, you've got to say that Javier Bardem just kind of redefines his career in playing these roles, both in No Country for Old Men and now in Skyfall. He proves that when he's the villain, the film just clicks, and it just will go places the film otherwise would not have. And personally, I don't think it's going to be a really long time before we get a villain that matches up to this performance here. That's all I have to say on that. Is job well done. And if I were to nominate anybody in this film for an Oscar, if I were to, or even award them, Javier Bardem takes the cake. I mean, what an excellent performance. And I have to say, I don't want to reveal it, but there's a kind of trademark set by the Bond villains, or certain Bond villains, where they have kind of this physical disability. Like Dr. No, got his hands, radiation, his hands were like melted away, or Largo from Thunderball has an eye patch. There's a secret thing with Javier Bardem's character, Silva, kind of this disability, this inhumanity, inhumane kind of quality about him that I was not expecting at all, and that was another terrifying scene where he kind of has this one-on-one with M, and yeah, I don't think I'm revealing too much when I say he talks to M, because yeah, it's in a few trailers, so yeah, just so you know. Okay, we'll move on to Dame Judi Dench as M. This is her, let's see, I have to count this, her seventh time, her sixth time reprising the role of M, her seventh time just as the role of M. And right away, I could tell that she put something into this performance, this film, that just blew the M's of the past out of the water. Like, the M's, I mean, as in her other performances. Right away I could tell that she was going for something bigger. I could tell right away that she was going to be more essential to the plot. She wasn't just going to be this boss that you see at the beginning of the film and then at the end of the film congratulating them. You know, you don't see them setting up the mission and then saying, "Congrats, well done," and then the audience leaves. No, she is at times actually the driving point of this entire story, and it's really nice to see such a wonderful actress such as Judi Dench getting this big due that she was long overdue in getting in these films. They finally give her the ability to act, the ability to be there and actually have relevance in the story, not just the boss that kind of bookends the whole Bond mission. So her performance I thought was excellent. I don't want to give away much as to what she does in the film or anything revolving her and Bond, her and the villain, but well, I just have to say it. The Bond relationship with M in this film is a little bit different than the last couple. I mean, you certainly get the sense in the Pierce Brosnan films that, you know, that Brosnan kind of had this quality of, oh God, it's a woman as my boss, you know. And with Craig, he kind of gives more respectable at times, and then other times he kind of wants her, you know, he just pisses her off all the time. So yeah, there's kind of the difference in those two actors' take on it, and also it involves also the involvement of the screenwriters and their thoughts on it. It's kind of nice to see that for the first time in Bond history that M gets a big moment, or a couple big moments in a film. The supporting cast, a lot of great performances across the board. Ralph Fiennes plays a role which I cannot really talk about all that much, or else I'll have to reveal a lot of stuff toward the third act, where he kind of gets his big scenes. But he is actually really absent for a majority of the film, and it's kind of surprising because the star here definitely is Daniel Craig, but I don't think I'm spoiling anything here. But it's not until past an hour and a half, almost an hour and a half, before we finally get Javier Bardem's introduction. And which is kind of the Jaws rule, if you know what I mean. The rule that you don't introduce the big thing in your movie. Like, for example, Jaws and the shark. You don't see the shark until over an hour into the movie. And the same I can think of with the recent King Kong remake, which is you don't see Kong until over an hour into the movie. Here we don't see the villain until almost an hour, I would say probably closer to an hour 20 minutes into the movie. And then finally we get the Bond villain, which is really nice, the way they change it up, because actually, when you think back to all the James Bond films, a lot of them introduce the villain within the first 10-15 minutes. And this one takes an hour plus that just to get to the villain, which is a nice change-up. Naomi Harris was great. Ben Whishaw, I think is how you pronounce his name, as Q, this new Q, kind of the reintroduction of Q. Really, really nice. I'd like to see him come back. I'd like to see a lot of characters come back. This is actually a change-up for most James Bond films, where I don't want to say a majority, but a large amount of the main cast members in James Bond films either die or are irrelevant and they don't come back. Here, I'd like to see a lot of the cast come back. Obviously, there are some cast members who can't. There are some cast members who maybe don't want to. But I'd love to see a lot of this same cast set up for the next sequel or two. And I'm not going to say who in the cast. I'm not going to say what roles in the cast. I'm not going to say anything like that. but I would love to see them come back. Now let's talk about the action in the movie, because the action is actually, when you think about it, as far as the Bond movies go, the reason that the seats are filled up. And I have to say, the action in this movie did not disappoint. What's kind of strange is there was kind of like this effect as far as how the action went. Because the opening scene, it had that kind of CGI mid-90s feel where everything was, you could tell there was CGI, there was blue screen, green screen. You could tell it was there. You could tell when it was utilized. And then like as Sam Mendes, like I said before, this is his first rodeo for a big action movie. It went like this as the movie went on. It's like the more it went on, the less you could tell it was CGI. It was green screen. The less obvious it became, and so that by the end, I think they actually blew up that house. Not to reveal anything, it's in a lot of the trailers where there's big explosions. But there's this house at the end that gets blown up. I'm not going to say anything about the house or what happens in the house, what happens outside the house, anything. But there's a point where this big house, this kind of mansion house, blows up. And I swear to God, it looks real. It looks like they actually blew up a mother frickin' house. It is so well done. And I was like, but hang on, just 2 hours ago, he was shooting stuff with green screen that was obvious green screen. What happened here? It almost feels like a new director has come in after the hour point. But there's a great scene in Shanghai where Bond takes on this different villain, this kind of side villain that he fights in the beginning as well, and they kind of have this fist fight, and it's very well done because both of them it's in a kind of a dark area with little flashes of neon light, it's very, very cool to see in the theater. But both of them they look about the same size, the same build, so you can't tell who is who. And then finally, it's right next to a cracked, broken window, and they are stories up. I mean, it is, boom, that high. Well, actually, that's shorter than what I am, but you know what I mean. And finally, one of them kind of falls over, and you think they're going to fall and die, and we don't know who it is. I mean, could it be Bond and then he's going to rescue himself, or is it going to be the villain and Bond's going to let him go and just die? We don't know. Yeah, and then the action, like I said, just accelerated from that point. There's a lot of brilliant stuff in about the last act of the movie, including there's one scene that's so well performed by Dame Judi Dench, where she gets this kind of monologue speech to this group of people that she has to talk to, this inquiry, and she quotes a lot of brilliant poetry, and at the same time it's almost like a montage sort of, where a person is coming to kill her, and at the same time Bond is coming to try to save everybody. And the scene grows more intense. The music starts to swell up as the villain closes in, and as Bond closes in, it just builds and builds and builds. The words become more meaningful. The words become more powerful. And then, boom, it starts up this big, big gunfight. And it's a spectacular build-up. Right from that moment, I said, Sam Mendes should come back. At that point, I said, now we've got a competent action director behind this film. I said, now is the time that I say, okay, let's not hire somebody else who knows what they're doing. Like, for example, what a lot of people have been saying is Christopher Nolan has actually taken a big interest into directing potential Bond films for the future. And right away, my first reaction is, yes! Thank you, God! But then, as soon as that scene came up, I was like, no, keep Sam Mendes. He knows what he's doing. And also keep a few of the screenwriters. They know what they're doing. They know how to build up tension. Not to say that Christopher Nolan doesn't know how to do that. He perfectly well knows how to do that. But the way that these people do it surprises you because you don't expect it to be that tense, that exciting. It was just spectacular, this build-up. And then, so as far as the action goes, it does not disappoint at all. Let's see, what else do I want to talk about? There's, as far as the crew goes, the rest of the crew, I've mentioned the director, Sam Mendes. I think this is his best work since American Beauty. When you compare the two, you're talking about a film that was almost, I don't want to say tailor-made, but it has this feel about it. American Beauty, this tailor-made feel of it's a good, it's a good Oscar-winning film versus Skyfall, which is kind of this action movie with James Bond, and it's too early for me to. I'd have to watch this again. I'd have to watch American Beauty again to kind of decide which one's better. But believe it or not, Skyfall's been getting better reviews. It's been getting a lot of praise for potential Oscar nominations here and there. Either way, I think it's going to be a toss-up. Either way, the screenplay I already mentioned, fan-freaking-tastic job. 3 writers on the film, including John Logan and Neil Purvis. Spectacular job. And I would love to see them write a couple more Bond films before they, hang up their hats or whatever. Or as Sean Connery would do, he'd throw the hat onto the rack. Classic stuff. You gotta love the classics. Now, the music done by Thomas Newman, superb. Tom Arnold kind of did, Tom Arnold, yeah, that's right, Tom Arnold. He did the Bond film music for a lot of films. I think like Tomorrow Never Dies On or somewhere around there. And Thomas Newman comes in now, and he does a superb job. There's a lot of great music in the film. And then the editing is fantastic. Stuart Baird, professional, veteran editor there, does a spectacular job with all the action stuff. All the dialogue cutting, like cutting in between people when there's kind of, I don't want to say dialogue heavy, but when there's a lot of people talking in rooms and stuff. It's really, really well done there as well. But I've definitely saved the best for last. And that is the cinematographer, Roger Deakins. Of course, I expected Roger Deakins to just take this up to a whole nother level, because Deakins, his time has come. He is getting an Oscar this year. I don't care what you say. I don't care what you say, Oscars. I don't care what you say. You should give the Oscar to the person who deserves it. Deakins nominated, almost 10 times now? Fargo. All that stuff with the Coen brothers. True Grit. On down the list. Fantastic cinematography. What do you think you're doing? This is the moment. This is the moment. Right now, Roger Deakins is going to win this year. Now, you've got to piss me off, Oscars. Way to go. Way to go. That's all I have to say about that. So, now that that's off my head, there were a couple other things about the film that bothered me. Now, this is not essential to the plot, but Bond fans around the world are going to be disappointed when they hear this. They screwed it up again. And they even went a step further. Everybody knows how you open a James Bond film. Opening logos. And then the gun barrel sequence. Not the first shot of the movie, the gun barrel sequence. This is the 3rd movie in a row to screw that up. Now in Casino Royale, that was fine, because it was the reboot, and they set it up before the main titles. That's sure, that's okay. Quantum of Solace just opened right with the first car chase or whatever. You freaking idiots! It's the sequel! You can put the gun barrel sequence back where it belongs! And now this film, Skyfall, does it again. It's almost like they're intentionally ripping us off now. Why? Why? What are you doing? You know you offend people around the world who love their classical James Bond, like me. I'm amazed. Why? Why do you put it at the end? That's not where it belongs. That makes it feel like a schlock version of James Bond, not the professional version of James Bond that we deserve, that we want. And then, worse yet, everybody knows, at the end of the titles, there's James Bond will return. In the old ones, they used to say James Bond will return, and then they revealed the name of their next picture. Sometimes they even got it wrong. Like, for example, there's 2 films, if you look back, that say James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. Because that was originally slated to follow The Spy Who Loved Me, and be Roger Moore's final James Bond film. But then the moon landing 10th anniversary happened. Then Star Wars happened. Then Close Encounters happened. Then they decided to put it in space with Moonraker. Yeah, that's ancient history. But the one thing you never do is put James Bond will return before the credits. Before the credits. The end credits. That's not how it works. You stupid people. Oh my God. You frustrate me incredibly with that crap. How dare you? You put the James Bond logo, the gun barrel logo at the beginning, before the main action scene that starts it all up. Then you put James Bond will return after the final credits, not before. When I say Skyfall, first thing I think of is blood. There's lots, I have to warn you, and I don't think I'm giving away too much again, because there's usually blood in a James Bond film. I mean, there is every time he fires the gun barrel sequence, there's always blood that comes down, you know? At the beginning? Yeah, they'll learn eventually. That's what I have to say about that. Here, blood is just all over this film. It's all over the title sequence. It's in the main action scene in the beginning. It's throughout the film. And actually, that's another thing, was Goldfinger. What are the opening titles? They're all in gold, on gold women, And in Thunderball, it's all underwater in a big tank where they filmed it. So, yeah, I'm going to try to wrap this up here. I feel like I'm kind of just talking to a camera that's right in front of me, and none of you people in the audience are left. See, I want to talk about already, if you plan on seeing this movie, go ahead and see it, because this is a long-delayed Bond film. This was originally slated for release about this time 2 years ago. But due to the financial business of MGM, their bankruptcy and everything, they kind of put everything they had into these films that are coming out now, or are about to come out, like Skyfall and the new G.I. Joe movie that's coming out next March when it should have come out this June. Another frustration of mine, but not quite as big, since I'm not all that big a G.I. Joe fan personally. But now it's and it's great to see that all that money goes into something, because Skyfall is definitely worth the price of admission. It's worth probably 4 or 5 times the price of admission. Really, it is a superb film. I give it a 10 out of 10, or a 5 out of 5, whatever rating system you go with. 4 out of 4, like Roger Ebert and all the professional critics. I don't think 4 out of 4 ratings work, though. If you get them out of 5, then you can increase them a little. You can times them by 2 and you get 10. Or if you do it by 10, you think kind of like letter grades. 100. If you get a 10 out of 10, that's 100. That's an A plus. Or you give it like a 5 out of 10. That's a like a C or something. That's the way I kind of look at it. But yeah, I think Skyfall will definitely not disappoint you. And already I've looked ahead, because if you know me, I like to keep track of how much movies make, of how big the films are, or how effective they are and all that. The critics praise it. 93% right now on the tomato meter. That might go up or down one or two before the weekend's over, when the final kind of reviews trickle in before all those people who watch it like 2 months later, before they review it. Let's see. It was projected this weekend to be the biggest Bond opener of all time, surpassing Quantum of Solace, which opened to 67 million about 4 years ago now. And it was slated for a 75 million opening. But I read a report no more than an hour ago, and actually I can't tell you what the time is right now, because you'll figure out where I live and you'll come and kill me if you disagree with this review. But no more than an hour ago, that said that early reports say that Skyfall on this opening day, November 9th, 2012, opened to $37 million, which is over half the debut of Quantum of Solace. And that means we're getting a weekend total of just under 90 million. That is incredible. That is incredible. I encourage all of you who want to see the movie, who love the movie, and want to see it again, go see it again. Make us a big financial weekend. That tells the people in Britain, in Eon Productions, that American audiences are as receptive to this film as they are. Because Britain, of course, is where James Bond is from, Ian Fleming. He's an English author. Of course, this is going to be big in Britain. It already passed The Dark Knight Rises and The Avengers as the biggest film of the year, and it's only been out for 2 weeks over there. Just to tell you that. So, here, let's show them in America. We love James Bond as much as they do, if not more. Because we have more people. But let's show them that we're ready for something big too. Let's show them that we like this movie. Let's show them that we showed up for this movie. Let's show them they need to go bigger. Let's show them, let's increase the budget here. Let's give them more to do. Let's make the big action scenes even bigger. Even more explosions and all that. Kind of like the Avengers, kind of. Because, you know, Marvel Productions noticed that Iron Man and Iron Man 2 combined made just under $650 million. So what did they do? They ramped up the production budget on the Avengers. More explosions. You know, more big scenes like that. And the Avengers did not disappoint. So let's do the same here. I'm not saying let's go overboard with this, but let's show everyone overseas that this is the film that we love. This is a film that we are going to praise, that we are going to remember. This is the 50th anniversary of James Bond. That's the other thing I wanted to say before I close this review. 50 years ever since Sean Connery first spoke the syllables Bond. James Bond. And he created a screen icon that will last till the end of time. And right away, this 50th anniversary, they had to get it right. And oh boy, did they get it right. Skyfall did it right. Let's show them this is more than just a 50th anniversary film. Let's show them this is more than just their next film. Let's show them this is an event. This is something we will remember. You know, 25 years down the road, people are going to remember the Avengers. People are going to remember The Dark Knight Rises. Let's show them that we're going to remember Skyfall. Let's show them that. Alright, this is me signing off. And my final saying, go see Skyfall. I'm watching you, Skyfall, again, for sure. And I hope you people on YouTube are watching me as well. Thank you very much for your time.